In the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Danielle, please, the roll call.
Jeff Penzine,
Here.
Angela Willis, excused. David Newbill,
Here.
Lynn Shank,
Yes, ma'am.
Dan Krenz,
Here.
Keith Wiederholt,
Here.
Mike Donlin.
Here. Okay, thank you, everyone. First, with regard to the agenda, I understand that there was one correction to what we were presenting that evening. A striking of new business item 8D, that permit renewal was not received, and so it will not be considered by us tonight, correctly, Dale?
Yep.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve today's agenda for April 26, 2026. 27.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. So looking to our meeting minutes from March 16th, those were included in tonight's packet. Danielle, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Assuming everyone had a chance to review those. Any comments, changes, concerns regarding those unapproved minutes?
Under the unfinished business, it says the homework for the PC is to create public engagement boards, sticky note survey. Those were already created. Those were done at the public engagement. We're just gonna bring them into the boardroom to display. We weren't gonna create new ones.
Maybe that should have just said questions, survey questions instead.
Probably maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Keith, you are correct, the boards were created at the public event.
I can cross it off and put just, survey
Posting of the
questions.
boards. Yeah, post the boards, not recreate them, it's just posting them up here at the township for people to come in and comment on. That's what I understood.
Right.
And if it's a recreate, it's just printing off the boards that were there, that are already created.
We have them, they're back there,
Are they written out though? I mean, just be, okay, you're gonna post those? Okay.
Well, it's like we're not beginning the entire process over again, we're gonna get additional information on the information we already had.
Okay.
I know, right?
So Keith, does Mike's explanation allay your concern regarding unfinished business?
I think so, I just want to be clear about what we're doing.
I mean, I don't know what to do with the objection. Danielle, can you modify it to comport with Keith's concern there?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments regarding the unapproved minutes from our March 16th meeting? Okay. Then at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes, subject to the comments of Mr. Weedle.
So this was the minutes from March 16th meeting.
Correct?
And it was just homework for survey questions and how to present these. Because remember when you guys had said you didn't want to go through and do this, you wanted Wade Trim to handle it, and that was vetoed by the board. But we didn't know that at the time. I'll just change it to say
Are you talking about the motion, Keith? We're trying to find that statement.
unfinished business.
First page.
I can just change it to survey questions. Does everyone agree with that?
Well, that's more in line with what it was, because if somebody was to look at this and say, well, nobody created new boards. well,
Right.
We're going to, we're gonna come with questions, which you guys did.
I guess my recollection was that was one of the potential avenues for further input, was to have the boards up here to hand out stickies if people wanted to come here. Because I wasn't aware that we had nailed down how to reach out to the community again. And that was one of the possibilities, was to put the engagement boards in here and allow people to come here and do that as one of the mechanism for what we were looking for.
So your last motion was made by Donna and second by Crimmins to recommend approval for the township board to have Wade Trim come up with survey questions based on the community workshop data and compile specific results from the SWOT in order to narrow down specific questions.
So you had two different motions. That was on the survey questions. The second motion was on the boards, which is Wade Trim to make up, to update community boards and questions to the survey and display the community boards in conjunction with the community survey. So the boards that we already had, that was that second motion, is to utilize that information. Looking at that, that's the motion for the boards. The survey questions are that first motion on these meeting minutes. And in regards to the unfinished business, the statement to create public engagement boards should be in more relationship to the second motion that was made for the community boards and questions. So to update those sheets that
Well,
were
you
used-
guys wanted her to do this.
These both these were at the time before the board vetoed the planning commission motion was two motions in fold. One was on updating the community boards that we used at the workshop.
Right.
Am I correct?
Yes.
And posting them here as a mechanism to do the work or to get more public input. And the second motion, which was the first one that's listed in the minutes, is for the survey questions, for Wade Trim to come up with a list of survey questions that we could review at the next meeting. And that was also vetoed at the board, and everything. So those are the two, I guess, to Keith's comments, it wasn't to create new public engagement boards, it was just to utilize the existing and update them and post them here at the township offices for more public comment.
Okay, well, what is this motion then for Wade Trim to make up the community boards?
Caitlin said that she had some stuff she was still gonna do in her original scope of work, like clean up the boards, consolidate them. And then, but the new scope of work was the second one, when we had asked her to do, to come up with the survey questions.
So do you want me to eliminate the homework?
It was the
altogether?
homework one that I thought was.
Or do you just
Yeah,
want it to say survey questions?
I mean, you can eliminate the homework one because the motions covered both of what we discussed at the last meeting. Because actually, when we left that meeting, we were all on the premise that Wade Trim was gonna come up with some questions for us to review at the next meeting, as well as to update the board. So we really didn't have any homework at that particular time until we received an email a week later or following week from you that said that we need to come up with survey questions. So
So you guys want me to omit the whole statement?
I would just, I don't think we had any homework coming out of that meeting.
I fully agree. I would say, unless somebody's opposed to this, just for the sake of, moving forward here, eliminate the unfinished business with regard to the homework aspect of it. Let the motions speak for themselves, right?
Yep.
And, let's keep in mind, we're just reviewing the minutes from our last meeting. That's the purpose of the agenda item that's before us. We do have survey questions as unfinished business, item 9, for later discussion by the commission tonight. So we can revisit all of the the takeaway from the motions of our last meeting at that time. But for purposes of the agenda, can I just make a motion that we would approve the minutes from March 16, 2026 with the unfinished business section removed?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and moving on to new business for tonight's agenda, we have mining permit renewal. It was used before us for Holly Sand and Gravel, Groveland Sand and Gravel, and American Aggregates. As indicated earlier, I-75 aggregates will be subject to later approval should that paperwork be produced to the township. Is somebody here, actually I know somebody's here on behalf of the, I guess the applicants or the moving parties tonight, correct?
Yes.
Can you identify yourself just for our benefit?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Kayla DeCicci. I'm the mine plan engineer manager, so I help with the mine planning for all three of these sites.
Okay, thank you, Kayla.
I'm Jason Strunk, I'm the plant manager at Holly Sand and Gravel.
Josh Groves, the American Aggregates manager.
Connor Van Dyke, mine planning engineer.
Brian.
Tewksbury, area manager.
And I'm sorry, your first name?
Roger.
Roger Gray?
Tewksbury.
Oh, Tewksbury.
Close.
All right, thank you all. I guess I would propose, unless somebody has a different way to go about this, that we do these sequentially, starting with Holly Sand and Gravel. We would be, I guess prospectively speaking, making a recommendation to the township board for renewal or not, correct? So let's do those individually, on the merits, and, Mike?
If I may ask,
Yeah.
since there's 3 new members on this board and not entirely fully aware of these consent judgments and these things, just can the township engineer or yourself or someone give us kind of a brief synopsis of these permits and what our vote means to this? Because I just want to kind of understand that. I don't know, I'll speak for myself, I haven't been fully immersed into that. I was wondering if there's a way to give us just a brief synopsis, 5-10 minutes, that's it, and then move sequentially into the agenda. Is that okay?
No, I think that makes sense. Since we have, our township engineer here, Tim, could I delegate that to you in the moment?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Pleasure to be here as always. That was great. I was actually going to do maybe a 30-second overview of that, but I'll maybe expand upon it a little bit more for some of the new commissioners. Yes, we have several active mining gravel extraction sites throughout the township, 3 of them that are on the agenda for this evening. There were several other ones that were active within the township that have recently ceased operations and been converted over to the ORB park, as some of you are aware. Lot of the, actually I think all of the sites within the township are regulated by 2 different factors. One being the township's ordinance, it's ordinance number 200, which is regulates the extraction operations. And then each of the sites, when they originally were settled or started operations, was subject to court case, and each of them has a consent judgment that oversees or has the overarching stipulations on operations. A number of those consent judgments have been modified over the years as things have changed, both from the applicant side of it and several of them from the township side of it, making requests. So those have been updated throughout time, but that's really the basis of our reviews from that standpoint, is to look at public health, safety, welfare mainly, and then looking at the ordinance requirements, and then any of the stipulations in the consent judgments, which typically most of them relate to access to the site, trucking, hours of operation, setbacks from adjacent property, mining limits as far as both from equipment and then from active mining areas, slopes, fencing, a lot of that kind of stuff is what we kind of look at from the kind of daily operations standpoint. And then obviously there is the long-term plan as far as, when the mining operations are completed, what is the, future of the sites, what's the final reclamation, it's called reclamation, basically what's the restoration of the site going to be at the end of mining operations. And each of the sites has a surety bond that is associated with that as part of the consent judgment that gives the township some surety and guarantee of, if the operations were to cease, kind of midstream or, they were to leave the site unexpectedly, what, there's monies available that the township could come in and do the interim reclamation to basically, level out the site, make it safe and restore it to a satisfactory standard. So I don't know if that was 5 minutes or not, but that's kind of the general overview as far as the process goes. These probably haven't actually, for the new commissioners, these haven't been, we've been kind of adjusting the process. We used to do these every single year. For a long time, there was an annual permit, and then that migrated to a biannual permit for a several year period. In recent years, we've been looking at kind of adjusting the process. So I think the last one's probably been 3 or so years or so. So there's been a little gap from the last official reviews. We did some interim reviews in between there, but the last official time I think that have action from the planning commission was several years ago.
2023.
Yeah, 3.
Does that answer your question, Mike?
Yes.
Question,
Perfect question, yes.
is it going to be again a couple years before we see them come back? Or is it going to be like it used to be, every year they came to us?
Yearly.
Thank you.
There was a reason why, with some data over with the flybys and the data and how it got to our, what is Dave ordained to us?
Well, the applicant's engineer.
The applicant's engineer. So between them and their flybys and Dave Ordain and the way it's processed over there, they finally have an updated computer system now that can coincide with both. So that was the big holdup. But now we're good, we're back on track, and everything should be yearly now, no later than April.
Second question, how fearful do we have to be that the state's gonna take over the management of mines? Because I know the Palma has been up to Flint or Lansing a couple
Yeah.
times. Because he does not want them to have control of our pits.
Yeah.
We, the township needs to control it.
Yeah, that is has been a discussion throughout the state legislature. There's been some bills that have been introduced and a lot of talk over the last number of years. I honestly can't speculate what our friends in Lansing are going to do on any particular issue, this one included. I don't know if Roger, you got any new news from Levy, but I believe that at least at the moment, it's kind of status quo, looking at local control. I think some of the new legislation, or the most recent legislation that was introduced would be applicable to new operations that come in, but would not apply to existing ones.
Okay.
At least that was one of their conditions. I don't know if that's gonna hold if they do reintroduce it, but as of now, there's nothing on the books proposed to change.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Tim, do you know, would the consent judgment, I don't wanna say preempt, but would it kind of immunize the township from state control, or no?
It would certainly, because that's the mechanism for enforcement of the conditions for these particular sites, so yeah, that would have to be, and that contractor judgment is between the operator, property owner, and the township, so that would still, by order of court, still remain. Yes.
In each of the three, I guess applicants, we'll call them, that are before us tonight, they all have separate consent judgments, correct?
Each site does, yes.
Like Groveland Sand and Gravel, this goes back to 1969, is that accurate?
Yeah, a lot of the consent judgments are from some 60s, 70s, and I think there's one in the 80s, yeah.
Yeah, Holly is 75, and it looks like American Ag would be 1980,
Yep,
roughly.
that sounds about right.
Okay. All right, Tim, thank you, and thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
To be it'd be wonderful if Caitlin were here, but the way, I guess just generally speaking, the way I read the materials that were prepared by yourself and Caitlin for our consideration tonight, kind of dovetail, or are intended to dovetail, with her evaluation or examination of the zoning requirements for our ordinance, and then your examination of the engineering, compliance with respect to each applicant, correct?
Yep.
So, without Caitlin here, we have the benefit of her letters, her reports, her evaluations, if you will. You've had a chance to review those?
Yes.
And in those instances where she defers or kind of makes, express reliance upon your review and your determination that there's been substantial compliance with regard to those items,
Yep.
that she is kind of dog-eared for concern, maybe that's too strong of a word. You're prepared to speak to those tonight?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that being said, why don't we proceed then with Holly, sand, and gravel first? Can we proceed in that manner? Anyone have a problem with that? No? So you had prepared an engineering review to kind of go hand in hand with Caitlin's, review of our ordinance?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I will let you take it from there.
Sure. Like I said, I guess I'll, for the benefit of the commission, I guess I'll walk through some of the highlights or points, just to give everybody kind of a lay of the land. A lot of the statements and considerations for each of the sites, obviously with the same operator, and that you'll find that there's a lot of consistencies between the way that the sites are operated and some of our commentary between all the sites. So in trying not to be repetitive through the evening, but we'll go through kind of each one of them individually. As it relates to the operation at Holly Sand and Gravel, for maybe that aren't familiar, this is the site located along the southern boundary of the township in sections 32 and 33. It's split into two areas we refer to as kind of the east area and the west area, split by Tyndall Road, south of Dixie Highway there. Caitlin covered a lot of the zoning and adjacent zoning, which obviously nothing has changed in those areas, so everything is still in compliance with that. One of the main points, or one of the, I guess not main points, but one of the important points for this particular operation is that a large portion of this site actually straddles Groveland Township and into Springfield Township. So a lot of the mining operations extend into Springfield, and as a matter of fact, all of the plant operations and all the equipment and stuff is actually, the majority of it is in Springfield side. Like I said, the mining operations in Groveland is divided into the two east and west areas, which, well, up until recent years, maybe 5 years ago or so, there wasn't really a lot of activity actually on the west side. It was primarily just on the east side. So we'll get into that a little bit. Obviously, the plans prepared by Keith Wardine have a good summary or snapshot of conditions that occur. They do aerial flights every year. The last one was done towards the tail end of last year and reflects kind of the conditions that were present, basically fall of 2025, which we did review and verify. Everything seems to be in good order there as far as the plans and setbacks and screening and all of that. Mining within this site has been ongoing, obviously for a number of decades, since the early 1990s. There's, like I said, split into the two different areas. The previous plan permit had about 120 mining acres that were approved in the east area for mining. The most recent set of plans indicate that about 110 of those acres were actually mined. And like I said, there is an estimated about 115 acres that is proposed in this mining area. So it's pretty consistent with the area that has already been disturbed, is what you'll find in most of these applications. As far as the east area goes, mining is continuing in that area, mostly dry mining and then potentially a bit of wet mining around the areas of the lake. There is, which I know the commission has typically asked every year, and I kind of prep Kayla for this question, which I'll let them elaborate on after if you have any questions on that, but they do a mining sequence table that is part of the plan package, and it indicates that the mining to be completed in 2028 for the, what I would call the north portion of the east area, east of Tyndall Road, to be completed in parcels 1 through 5, and then continuing in the southern portion of that site through 2032. So basically, another several to 6 or so years of active mining operation before some of the further reclamation will take place. And obviously that's all subject to change, that those estimates based on market conditions and how much material in that they sell and process each year, big construction year or not. The west area, like I mentioned, had been pretty inactive up until of recent. There was about 44 acres of area that were approved for mining in the previous application year, and a little bit over that, I was actually actively worked in the previous plan. This current plan that is submitted calls for about 48 acres of area on that west side to be actively mined. As we've talked to the operator applicant, there's actually just a little bit of stuff going on over there, some minimal operations anticipated. There was if somebody there on the commission will recall, there was a access tunnel constructed underneath Tyndall Road a number of years ago when they started working on that other side again. There's a conveyor belt to basically they process some of the material over there, and then it's conveyed underneath the roadways. There's no active truck traffic over the road between the two east and west halves. Trying to think anything else important there. Like I said, as far as the equipment on the site, obviously the proposed to remain for mining operations, and as I mentioned, the majority of the equipment is located in Springfield, so really doesn't come into play as part of this review. On the reclamation side for this particular site, there is approximately 27 acres on the east area that have been reclaimed, including the area of the lakes and some slopes around the north and eastern edges of the site. The plans do call for about 21 acres of area to be actively worked for reclamation this year, whether it's interim reclamation or final reclamation. I guess we'll see how that plays out towards the end of next year. So, but that will be the areas that will be continuing along those slopes as they're kind of working their way out from the north to the south. On the west area, on the west side of Tyndall Road, approximately just shy of 40% of that site has been reclaimed previously, and no further reclamation is proposed for this particular permit year on that western site. So as I mentioned before, there's a performance bond that is allocated to each of the sites. This particular one is split into the two halves. $600,000 bond for the east area and a $400,000 bond for the west area, for a total of $1 million. This was last reduced, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or so when we did some of the final reclamation on the north end to kind of reduce those areas. What we do as far as the reclamation areas is they continue to reclaim and get area that is fully reclaimed, then that bond amount gets reduced the more of the site that gets basically put back in that condition. But this, for this permit year, is to retain the amount that is there, which the applicant has already provided the surety bond and copies of the surety bond to the township, so that's good. That's usually one of our annual comments, is to provide copies, so thanks for getting them this year. As far as permits go, there's really the only permit that impacts the Groveland side of this particular site is a soil erosion sedimentation control permit, which is administered through Oakland County. They're typically do annual renewals for these. The permit that was granted on this particular site says that it expired in December 2025, or it was the permit extension was granted, but doesn't indicate when it expires. So the only question to the applicant is just make sure you get a copy of the latest soil erosion permit from Oakland County. They usually do it. I think they do them every year is what they've been doing. So the last one we have on file is from 25. So that was really our only condition or comment, I guess, if you were to propose a motion recommending for the township board. From our review, I guess I will say in generality, I did review Caitlin's review, and I will say that the level of detail in this view is probably more detailed than I think I've seen in the 20 years I've been looking at these sites, which is, it's great.
You know,
But she did a very good job of going back through every consent judgment I've ever ordered, so there's a lot of lines of conditions, and a lot of them, obviously, as I see, most of them are addressed or have been in compliance. The plans either address or, and then some of them, obviously, she deferred to our review on some of the slopes and setbacks, some of the engineering related conditions, but I didn't see anything in her review that was of concern, that was jumping out, that there was something that was not in compliance, that was out of the ordinary.
okay, thank you, Tim. I guess just with regard to Caitlin's, we'll call it a report of April 20th. I guess the only compliance concern that I had flagged was screening. And this is based upon her review of the consent judgment. I'm referring to page 2 of her letter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, your response to that concern?
I don't have any concerns with the screening. Most of the screening on these sites are large vegetated berms that have been in place for decades, and a lot of them have tree cover on it, so if you go into the site, most of them you can't, the purpose of those is to screen from, like if you drove down Tyndall Road, you typically don't see into the sites because there's a big berm of vegetation and trees on the sides.
So she reviewed the consent judgment for Holly sand and gravel, identified that as a requirement,
It is required, yep.
noted it as a compliance concern, maybe question mark, but you're not seeing that as problematic in any way?
Nope.
Okay. To my fellow commissioners, any comments or questions for the applicants with regard to Holly sand and gravel?
I'd like to ask them one thing. My pond grew unbelievable with this last rain. How big is your pond? Nearly. It went into my field. It went way into my jack pines.
It's significant. Yeah, we've got quite a bit of water down there.
Okay, so it
It's
grew.
receding a little bit, oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you, Larry.
I apologize, but
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely.
and I've lived there over 55 years. I've never, ever seen it so much water. My pond gets so big.
A generational rain. Any other questions, Mike?
No,
Go right ahead, sir.
Mr. Chair, thank you for bringing up the compliance concern, because I was waiting to listen to that too, because I wasn't sure about the permit. But, I guess this just goes back, maybe just something helpful would be with these reports, just a area map. So I can visualize what I know you got them over there, I think, but, just trying to visualize that. I wanted the Google Maps and trying to look at where these things we're talking about.
Sure.
And, and so I was kind of confused where the property lines were and stuff,
Okay.
so having that would be helpful.
Yeah, we can certainly send them. They do a nice summary sheet overlay with an aerial that'll show you kind of the existing condition with the property lines and stuff, which,
They're
It is-
here.
it's part
I
of the
don't make
packet,
copies
yeah.
for everybody because they're ridiculously huge and I don't need all these in the office, but it is here for review always.
Even a
whenever.
PDF.
yeah, we can, they have.
It'd be great.
Yep.
Because I just look at everything electronic anyways, so.
Not a problem, we can do that.
I'll add it to the preview.
Any other questions or comments from the commission with regard to Holly sand and gravel's application? No? I guess just one question, for purposes of our township engineer's conclusion, and with specific regard to the soil erosion and sedimentation control permit renewal, can we put a time frame on when that will be provided? Maybe those reports are produced or procured through the county at a certain time of year? I don't know, but is that something that should be provided to the township by a date certain or not?
It should have probably been in with the permits, but
Yeah, it's,
Sometimes I just call Kayla and say, hey, can you send them over?
Right.
Okay, so that's not a deadline or a date certain?
No,
It's not
they
necessary?
normally are summer permits, it's just been a wackadoodle year, 2 years in mining, so.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And just so the commission is aware that, so the soil erosion enforcing agent is Oakland County, the Water Resources Commission, and obviously if there was an issue that there were any violation notices, that the township gets copied on any, so if the permit did lapse, the township would be notified anyway, so there's another layer of, I'll call it protection if you want
Okay.
to consider that.
Understood. Thank you, Tim. Anything else? No? I guess at this time, we will turn the lights back on. What is going on? So Danielle, should we move to a motion?
Yeah.
Yes? I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the 2026 to 2027 reclamation plan for the Holly Sand and Gravel, no section. Recommend the township board to approve it for the mining permits, based upon the report from our consultant.
So second.
Donald, second. Danielle, this does not require any type of roll call vote, correct? Just,
We're not spending any money.
okay. So, take a vote. Yes, all in favor of the motion as stated?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The application is approved for Holly Sand and Gravel. So then turning our attention to item 8B, which would be Groveland Sand and Gravel. It's kind of the same drill here. Is any of you here specifically for the applicants individually? Like, was somebody, one of you 5 here just for Holly Sand and Gravel?
I'm just Holly.
You're just Holly?
Yeah. That's right.
Okay. And Kaylee, you're here on behalf of all?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. And Tim, you did a site review, correct?
Mhm.
With regards to each of these 3?
Yep.
properties?
Kayla and I went and toured around all the sites, yes.
Okay. So Jason, you're here for Holly.
Yes.
Is anyone here specifically for Groveland?
Partial. My boss isn't here, so I'm here.
You're Josh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I guess finally with regard to American Ag,
That's me.
that is you?
Yes, sir.
Let's put him up there and shoot at him.
Pat, are you here on behalf of any specific applicant? No?
Just like Caleb, kind of all.
Okay.
Cover everything.
And then Roger, I apologize if I should know this.
Yeah, he's my boss.
Okay, all right, wonderful. Thank you all, and thank you for being here. All right, so back to the application materials for Groveland Sand and Gravel. I guess, Tim, if we could just refer it back to you once again for your review.
Yep. So similarly, I'll walk through a couple of the highlights for the Operation Groveland Sand and Gravel. For you that aren't familiar, this is the site is bounded by similarly basically across the Dixie Highway from the previous site, Oak Hill and Dixie, kind of behind the Food Castle there. This is actually a pretty large site. There's about 325 acres in totality. It's divided into north and south areas. No work has ever been performed on the north portion. It's about 111 acre northern portion, and no work is proposed. So the permit area and mining area is reflective of a 213 acre kind of southern portion, basically along the more or less the frontage of Oak Hill. So just to point out, like I said, we'll certainly provide the kind of overview aerial map so everybody can get, apologize that those weren't provided ahead of time, to get your bearings as far as where all these different pieces are. Mining within this site has been ongoing similarly since the early 90s. All basically mineable acres of this site have been disturbed, and there's pretty much all of the area is either currently or actively being mined or disturbed. They've had some what we call dry mining operations in recent years. Have continued kind of on the eastern edge of what is the very eastern parcel 3. And then there's been some wet mining operations that have slowly continued to expand. There's an existing lake kind of in the central portion of the site in parcel 2. Proposed mining in the plan set for this permit year includes wet mining along the southeast edge of the existing lake, as well as a little bit of dry mining up to the mining limits, kind of in that east and south sides. There's a very little, or pretty much up to the limits on most of that area already. So primarily in the lake. You will find when we talk about this particular site, I would say this one is probably the farthest along as far as extracting all of the materials that are there, and probably the closest to being complete from a active mining operation of the 3 that we were talking about. There are, covered it in our review, but didn't mention in the previous one, but yes, as far as the screening berms, there's screening berms and fences around the entire site. Those remain in operations. No concerns with any of that. The equipment on this site's basically to remain where it is for the current mining operations. There's a portable processing plant that's kind of set up in the central eastern portion of the site that kind of sorts and sizes and the materials for shipment out of the site. They're related to reclamation on this particular site. There's been some interim reclamation partially completed in previous years. This one, due to one of the prior operations in this site, they had actually excavated the pit bottom was previously mined below what is kind of the proposed finished elevation. So in recent years, there's been some bringing in of additional material or moving other materials around on the site to kind of raise that floor elevation to an appropriate elevation around what is going to be the final lake elevation. So that's kind of a long continuous process. We had talked with the applicant a number of years ago. There's some large overburden berm kind of along the north edge of the active mining, and then also there's been some discussion of utilizing some of the material from the kind of unmined northern parcel in order to kind of land balance the whole site. So those are, I would expect in future permit years, as we see that, you'll kind of come up with probably a plan of how to best utilize some of those additional materials to get closer and get, I think everybody's looking forward to getting the final reclamation plan, getting closer to that as expeditious as possible. So if that helps to get there, I think that would be a good thing from the township's perspective. I said not a lot of active, like I said, this one is fairly straightforward, not a lot of activity compared to some of the other sites if you were to go take a tour of this one. Performance bond on this site is set at $470,000, which the applicant has provided a copy of that surety bond to the township, so that's good. And similar to this one, there's a soil erosion control permit that is, these ones are on a rotating annual basis as well. We just need a copy of that approved permit renewal for this year. And then similarly, like I said, I have reviewed Caitlin's report on this one as well, and I think a lot of the commentary is very similar. I didn't see anything that was or cause for concern that jumped out at me. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you again, Tim. I guess just first with regard to Caitlin's review, I don't know if I'd call it a concern or just an observation, but with regard to the zoning ordinance compliance, and I'm referring to page 3, with section 6.15 extractive industries, subsection D. Let's talk about that first. And this is with regard to machinery or equipment that is situated within the setback. You see what I'm referring to?
Yep, I see that there.
Yes. Okay. So she makes note that there's a home located within 1,000 feet of the fixed equipment area, which might be in violation of the setback.
I can look back through the setback area. I know that the plant equipment was moved a number of years ago. There was I'm suspecting it might be there's one of the properties, I think south and east of the site that had some cause for complaints, but we did go up and have some verification measurements to make sure that was within the setbacks and the equipment was relocated, and I think that is reflected on the current set of plans is the proper setback, and all the equipment is within that kind of envelope.
And again, you made an on-site visit to
Yes.
to
Yep.
this mine, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And you didn't have any first-hand objections to the way the equipment was situated with regard to the setbacks?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I think it's like I said, it's been in that locale for a number of years.
Okay, very good, thank
Yep.
you. So I guess just with regard to subsection E then, immediately following, again, it looks like just some observations. I just wanna confirm for our purposes, you don't see any cause for concern or any basis for a lack of substantial compliance in your review?
Yeah, I didn't find anything that wasn't in compliance related to the berms or the screening at any three of the sites actually.
Okay, thank you. Have you got a question?
Back up, Mr. Chair, back up to subsection D, this is directed at Tim, or I would like to reiterate the equipment too. I'm just, and this is just looking at Google Maps and stuff, because that's what I had to go on, and I was trying to understand what Caitlin's comment was in regards to that, and just looking at where the machinery is on Google Earth and stuff, it's 1,000 feet from the residence that's right there, and I see where her comment's generated from, so I just wanna reiterate, if approval's given, that we just make sure that the machinery meets the setbacks of 1,100 feet. If they have to be adjusted or whatever, I just wanna, just to double check that.
Okay.
Not that the Google's end all be all, it could be, totally off base, but, that's just saying that, I think that, just to reiterate that, then, just make sure our motion's clear on that.
Okay, thank you. And just so I'm clear, we're basing it on a Google review and eyeballing it within 100 feet? Is that?
I was looking at, okay, what's her basis of that 1,000 feet versus 1,100 feet? And I wanted to see where it was, and I'm pulling up Google Image just now and looking at it, and it's 1,000 feet from the residence versus 1,100 feet.
We have to
So it
use
could be
these
wrong.
maps submitted for review.
Is it
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
That's fine, I just wanted, all my point is that, just wanna make sure that the equipment stays at the 1,100 feet setback.
Do you have any concern there?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say so the survey map from Keith has I was making sure that it's on here, so they have a actual offset line from all of the adjacent residents that has basically this 1,100-foot setback line that basically envelopes the site. So our goal,
Okay.
yeah, our goal is to basically make sure that the equipment stays within that envelope.
And I didn't have the reference plan at the.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Any other questions or concerns for Groveland, San Gabriel? Any? No? I guess just an odd question with regard to the pit bottom. Fascinating to me, but how do you folks report to the township and then the township will do kind of a boots on the ground investigation to verify what we're told or what's represented to us with regard to the state of affairs out there?
Yeah, part of the process going through is obviously we get the plans which have updated surveys and topos, and there's proposed grades and mining limit lines, and a lot of them will have the mining limit lines from, here's where the bank was in 2022, 3, 4, so you can kind of see some of the progression, and then obviously there's new aerial survey and aerial mapping that is done every year to kind of give us a state of current conditions. So we look at that, and then from a plan standpoint of what is proposed for the future year, and then part of the site visit is obviously to go and then kind of verify that yes, that what's reflected on the plans and the permit application that's submitted, you know, makes logical sense, that nothing jumps out as being, you know, out of the ordinary or not reflected appropriately in the permit package.
Sure, okay. Wonderful, thank you again. So if there's no further questions for Groveland, sand and gravel, I would entertain a motion at this time by one of my fellow commissioners.
I move we approve the 2026 to 2027 mining permit reclamation plan for Groveland Sand and Gravel, and recommend to the Township Board the approval of the mining permit based upon the reports of our Township consultants, and recommend that the Township Board adopt the bond amount. They did not put in the other one, it was $470,000. And I forgot to put it in the other one, that it was $1 million. I apologize.
That's okay, I put it in there.
That should.
Second by David. Okay, all in favor of the motion as stated by Lynn?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Okay, there being none, the motion is approved for Groveland sand and gravel to the Township Board. All right, and then moving on at this time to item 8C, the renewal application of American Aggregates. Okay, we again have reports from Caitlin and Tim. Tim, if you're ready to discuss your review of that application, I would welcome you at this time.
Absolutely. So this site is, I think in our report is referred to as Grange Hall, American Aggregates. It's a couple different names that it's taken over. It used to be the couple names a couple sites ago, but it's basically located at south of Grange Hall, on the west side of Holly Road, that section that's there. Caitlin indicated, like I said, a lot of the adjacent zoning and everything seems to be, nothing has changed in that area as far as that goes. It's certainly been an updated, like I said, mentioned before, updated aerial map, updated plans that were flown to reflect the site conditions at the end of 2025. Just to note, as we discussed kind of the overview related to consent judgments, this site is probably the one that I can think of that it was the most recent amendment to the consent judgment. I think it was about 5 years ago. There was a amendment to this one that based on agreement between the operator and the township to actually add a couple of the southern parcels to the site that weren't originally part of the original site and consent judgment. So that was one of the most recent modifications and has been basically progressing for the last 5 years, working in that particular area of the site. So just as background. This particular site and in this permit application, they're planning to continue both wet and dry mining within the site. It's about 120 mineable acres in this permit year. This site is unique to the other ones. This one actually has an on-site suction dredge that is working the lake to do the kind of underwater mining. If anyone hasn't seen that, big, for lack of a better term, big dirt vacuum that sucks up all the sand into the processing plant. So it's a pretty interesting operation if you've never seen it. There's also, like I said, those southern parcels that were added, a lot of large face area that is dry mined from end loaders that's actively working that southern site. So a couple different operations going on at this site, which is good and going to continue obviously in this new mining or this current mining area. There is a most of the site is current, or there's a lot of the site that is a current lake area, and that is only proposed to expand. I think the current lake area is about 37 acres. The planned final size of the lake is about just shy of 60. I think it was 58 or 60 acres, so be a pretty sizable lake when it's all said and done. Screening berms on this particular site similarly are all set up around the perimeters, fencing and berms, so no concerns with any of those. All the equipment on site is proposed to remain on site for the mining operations. And it's a kind of existing configuration of the processing plant. There's some maintenance building, and there's a wash water tower and a number of other things that are on site there that all stay within in the locale that they are currently. There's a haul road that basically comes in from Holly along the south and east side of the lake. As the lake has been kind of growing and expanding, that haul road continues to keep getting moved, so that will continue to occur as the lake is expanded. As far as reclamation for this particular site, through the end of 2025, basically includes like I said, approximately 37 acres of the lake, and then there's about 9 or 10 acres area in the southeastern portion of the site that has been kind of reclaimed down along the pretty much adjacent to Holly Road there. There is a 20-acre area and kind of in the northeast corner of the site that is indicated as proposed reclamation for this permit year. Whether some of that is interim or grading, or whether it all gets reclaimed, like I said, but that's the area that they'll be working as far as reclamation goes. And then the other primary area of reclamation is obviously as the dredge continues to work the lake area, as the lake expands, that is kind of reclamation and mining all in one process, so that's continuing. As far as the performance bond for this site was set based on the most recent amended consent judgment of $615,500. That is currently posted with the township, and the applicant has provided copies of that surety bond for the township's use. As far as permits go on this site, there's actually a couple of permits on this site related to sedimentation, soil erosion sedimentation control. There's also Michigan Eagle Environmental Great Lakes Energy Inland Lakes and Streams permit, as well as a groundwater discharge permit, all of which are included in the plans. The Eagle permits, the two of them, the inland lakes and streams, and the groundwater discharge, the ones that are included in the plan set expired in 2025, and I assume they've been renewed. We just need to get the updated copies of the renewals for both of those. And then similarly, the soil erosion sedimentation control annual permit renewal just needs to be submitted to the township. And in both cases, like I said, the agencies, if there was a lapse in either of those, the township would be notified by either the County Water Resources Commission or from Eagle, which, like I said, I'm confident that they have been renewed. They just haven't been submitted to the township. And that covers our review. Like I said, similarly, I didn't have I don't think any major concern. There was a couple of comments that Caitlin had in her review. I don't think there were anything concerning that jumped out on this one for the Grange Hall American Aggregate site. So happy to answer any questions.
I guess a curiosity more than anything, just with regard to reclamation that was accomplished in 2025. A 37-acre lake does that mean it was filled in? Or what?
No,
Can
that
somebody
means,
speak to that? What does that
that
mean if
means
you were
that
in the lake?
it's at the state that it's gonna be in. So the lake was created and it's gonna stay that way.
Okay,
Is that?
Yep.
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
Silly question, I know, but I'm not a miner.
No, that's fine, that makes sense.
I guess just with reference to Caitlin's report, Tim, directing you to page 3, subsection E, she just makes some observations there. Whether there's compliance with the consent judgment pertaining to berms, fencing, any concerns there based upon your on the boots review there?
No, like I said,
or on the
Believe-
ground review?
Yeah, I believe all the berms on this site are, have been in place, and there's been no changes or modifications to any of those, so they're all in good shape.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Lynn?
In reclamation, isn't it a 4-to-1? 4 feet to go up or down 1 foot?
Each of the sites has
That's when it's done.
each of the consent judgments has a required maximum slope. Some of them are 3 foot horizontal, 1 foot vertical. Some of them are 2.5 to 1. Some of them are 3.5. It varies for each of the sites. This particular site, there was some, and I know that has been discussed with this body in the past, there was some previous slopes that were not really reclaimed, but just have vegetated over the 40 years they've been there, that are exceeding that consent judgment slope that will ultimately, at the end of the process, as this closes out and gets reclaimed, will have to be softened and regraded to a lesser slope as part of the final process.
Because I always thought it was 4-to-1.
4-to-1 is land division rules.
Okay.
But it doesn't have anything to do with mining, and I'm pretty sure they changed them this year, so it's no longer I think it's whatever they want it to be.
There is a typical, like as part of the like site plans, you'll see your land, there's typically that's the township's standard for like new development, kind of grading requirement. Like I said, each of the sites is from a slope standpoint is governed from the consent judgment, and typically they're a little bit steeper than that,
Okay.
but there's still a requirement.
Thank you, Lynn. Good question. Anybody else? Okay. So Tim, again, your conclusion or your finding is American Ag is in substantial compliance with the ordinance, so I guess there are the reference to the report or the permits.
Yeah.
Subject to those, I guess, being provided as indicated. The other, I guess, condition you have is with regard to the updated current acreage of the lake, correct? Could you expound on that just a bit?
Yeah, we had that in there from previous work, there's a table in the plan that as the lake continues to expand, they have basically a lake acreage for both kind of current, each permit year lake acreage, and then they've been updating the proposed site. I think the original, or not original, but a few years ago, the final proposed lake was 50-ish acres, and the size has grown, so we have that updated so that the proposed lake is now close to 60 acres.
Okay, so that's rooted in historical
Yep.
document. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. If there's no specific questions, I'm sure you folks were looking for some really intense probing questions from the commission tonight, but I guess you did a good job. I would entertain a motion with regard to the application then for American Aggregates.
I move we approve the 2026-2027 reclamation plan for American Aggregates, and recommend the township board approval for the mining permit based upon the reports of our township councilors, and recommend to the township board to accept the bond amount of $615,500.
A second
Second.
from Mike. All in favor of that motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there being none, the motion is approved for recommendation to the township board. Thank you again for being here tonight on behalf of the mining interests. We'll move on. Okay. We will move on then to
Just be here next year.
unfinished business. Back to the survey questions.
You guys don't have to stay for our survey questions unless you're interested.
Can we ask questions about this before we leave? I don't know.
Do you guys have comments,
I mean,
concerns,
they're leaving.
curiosities? Feel free.
I mean, yeah, they can have a public comment, we can have
During
public comment.
They can record the questions.
Yeah.
If you guys wanna stay for just a couple of public questions,
No, that's fine.
is that okay?
Sir, I gave him mine.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We'd like to go and see it.
Absolutely.
Okay, public comment. Thank you.
Do fire drones still do their
Okay.
Yes, so, if any of the mining folks wish to stay, the folks who have come tonight have some questions during the public comment phase of the meeting, which will follow agenda item 9, which is unfinished business. And this goes back to the survey questions that we were kind of touching upon earlier. I guess I'll just start with reference back to the meeting minutes. Mike, as you had kind of summarized, there were 2 motions that were approved at our last meeting, out of which, I guess we were, yes, please.
Can we do public comment for this so they can go? Because we did have public comment,
I was just abiding by the agenda, can we revise?
but we did have number 7 with public comments, agenda items only.
Okay,
Can we do that, Sir Chair?
I have no problem with that, just for the sake of setting you folks on your way. So that was sooner.
And thank you for staying.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I guess we'll go to public comment, agenda items only. If anyone has questions of the mining interest, yes, sir, your name?
Tom Phillips, Tucker Road. I'm a construction guy, mines are critical. Are any of them dry all the time? I'm used to ones that go into the water table eventually. Do all of these do that?
All 3 wires are wet.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well, that was easy.
One down.
I have a question. My name is Steve Ford, I live on Grange Hill Road. I've lived in Holly for a long time, and I'm curious about the gravel pits. You guys have been mining gravel in Groveland Township for a long time. When is it gonna run out? As far as the planning commission is concerned, part of our master plan was as we're putting it together, the mining is gonna be a big part of it. So we kind of wanna know, when does it, sooner or later, we're gonna run out of gravel, right? And so this is kind of important part of our master plan,
So
so.
in Holly, we're nearing completion, so I have a mine plan through 2028.
Right.
But then nothing beyond that, we haven't really talked about beyond that, but yeah.
So what we're trying to do is kind of put together a master plan, like what happens when that runs out, what does it look like? What does the reclamation plan look like? What do we turn it into another ORV park, or do we turn it into, a golf course community or a retirement community? What does that look like? So that's what we're kind of interested in. So as we're listening to this stuff, this is kind of new to me.
Yeah, I got
And
it.
I knew sooner or later, it's gonna run out, right?
Right.
So what does that look like? So that's what I'm kind of asking you guys, as I'm listening to these, as these things end, what do we do with it? So that's why I'm kind of curious as to what, as these plans kind of come to fruition, what does it look like then? So that's what I'm kind of curious for our board as well as the other residents, what does that look like?
Gotcha.
So as we start to plan and think about, what does it look like?
Got it.
So when does that?
Kayla can speak to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really all 3 of these sites, probably we're gonna be out of reserves in the next 5-6 years, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
So every 5 years, we kind of put together a new master plan, so that kind of gives us an idea as residents and as board members, what does that kind of look like? So for this master plan, we're kind of putting it together right now, so we got 5 years now, and the next 5 years, what does that look like? So that kind of helps me out. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being a big part of our community.
So they reclaim the land to a
Right.
certain but they're not reclaiming it to what it's going to be.
Agreed, yeah.
So
that's our responsibility.
some developer can come in and buy it and
Right.
propose a subdivision. They can
Right.
propose anything that is what it's zoned for. And right
Sure.
now, all these are zoned
Yeah, once they empty
underlining.
it out, yeah, that's kind of, so that what we wanna do is kind of promote that.
Yeah,
too.
their underlining zoning is
Residential.
residential. They're just
Sure.
extractive and the residential, so
Right.
it's, they can't tell you what it's gonna be.
Right, but they're using it right now, and once it's done, what do we, as master planners, what do we do with it, you know, so.
It's zoned residential, so it has to be, with whoever buys it
Right.
off of them is gonna determine what they want there, and then
Sure.
it goes to the planning commission for approval.
Right.
So it's
Be a
not
process.
whether, it's not up to you guys to decide what goes there,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
I get
It's
it.
it's zoned recreational, and whoever buys it, and usually subdivisions go up.
Danielle, you said a couple different things there. Is it zoned residential? Or is it
It's got
zoned
an extractive
recreational?
overlay on it, so it's the overlay, it's zoned extractive right now until they're done. Once it's done being extracted, it's zoned residential.
Residential.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yep, thanks.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Tim, did you have, I'm just gonna push pause on the public comment for a second. Did you have to leave, Tim? I thought that's what Danielle was indicating.
No, I mean, do you
I
have to?
don't know, I can stay if you need me to. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank
He
you.
wants to stay for the survey questions,
Oh,
he told
yes,
me.
okay, thanks, yes.
Any other, back to public comment, any other questions for the mining interests who are here? Carrie?
Yep, Carrie Smith, Holly, so I just had a couple questions, and Danielle, and you kind of just alluded to it. We don't know yet what the reclamation will be, so when you guys have been talking reclamation tonight, and within Caitlin's report and yours tonight as you represented, what does that reclamation look like so far? I heard a couple things about lakes and their growth, well, what else can we expect once you're finished at these properties?
So, I can answer that if you'd like, Mr. Chair.
Please.
There's each of the, permit applications has a final, like basically a final reclamation plan of what the site will look like when their operation has, been completed. And in all three of these instances, it includes, some area of lake area, and then the property is basically regraded, instead of being big steep slopes like it is now, it's basically gently sloped. There's shelves for, potential future development around said lakes, and then kind of sloping out to the what is now pretty steep sides of the pits that will be kind of blended. And then it's basically restored with vegetation, whether that's, grass or kind of native plant, and that's the condition it will be in until, as Danielle mentioned, a, future development proposal comes through.
Gotcha. Also, I'm looking at some old information, and you guys also referred to whether it's private or whether, I heard Eagle as well. So are these all private-owned properties, or are they state-owned properties?
All of these are privately owned by the levy companies.
Very good, thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Anyone else have a question for the mining folks here? No? Okay. Again, I thank each of you for coming. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Thank you.
All right, so we will,
Write stuff down, well, then everyone else was handing them out. I'll see how to help spell my name, it's kind of weird.
Thanks, Scott.
I don't know if I can.
Yeah, it's, yeah.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
all right, survey questions, item 9A on the agenda tonight. So David and Mike have prepared some questions. I guess I would let each of you, Mike, if you wanna.
I'd just like to start off some general information.
Please do, yes.
I know we talked about earlier in the meeting about the minutes and the two motions that were made with regard to Wade Trim helping us out and, doing the survey, coming up with survey questions and then having us review at the next meeting. And Keith, I guess it's more a question for Keith and the board. What, was it a budgetary thing? Was it, I know we talked about, having guest speakers come in for different things like data centers, battery storage and things like that. Being a master plan, that's equally as important to me to have consultant assistance on creating questions. I don't mind coming up with questions because as a township resident, perfectly fine with doing that. And quite honestly, I was a little tardy putting my questions in since that notification, but what was the justification on the board? Was it a budgetary thing?
It's budget, it is budgetary, and largely because it's an update to the master plan. The last time we did it, we created a new master plan. when we
Okay.
did it years ago.
Okay.
This is an update to the current master plan,
Okay,
so it should be relatively painless.
okay.
So, and that's what, and Kevin didn't wanna get into a larger scope of work with Wade Trim than we needed to. And as far as answering questions and stuff, if we wanna do these, put these into a survey monkey or something like that, he wants to do that in-house.
Well, and my concern is with that, you know, we can all come up with questions and we could banter back and forth on the questions. But what is those questions actually gonna result in? And I would still, even if the questions we come up with, such as the ones I submitted tonight, had some validity, I'd like to confirm the validity of those questions, whether or not they are appropriate or not, because I just don't wanna send out questions that, hey, you know, Mike Donovan thinks this is a great question to put on a survey, and it gets us nowhere, you know what I'm saying? I came up with these questions just based on what Caitlin's report was, and the comments we got from the public, you know, at that workshop, so I was coming up with some of those things. And I'm sure there's more questions that could be had, and I use my experience in creating surveys to kind of like create those goals. What is your top, you know, land use? What is, do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? Do you know, those types of rankings and stuff. So I still would like the board to consider at least having them review with whatever we come up with tonight to make sure that the questions we're asking the public have some value to that master plan update.
Well, from looking at what you put together, a lot of these are very similar to what was in the original survey, in the public.
In the workshop.
Yeah, so it's good questions. I mean, it's gonna elicit what you're wanting to get different people, right? So you
Right.
get different people that were not at the workshop.
Our whole point of the surveys were to get more than 1% of the residents in the township to give some input on it, right? And this was another effort to show due diligence in getting that. And I just wanted to know from the board's perspective, it's budget, but I'd still like the board consider to have our professional consultants review the questions we come up with tonight to make sure they have some validity in the application of our, updating our master plan, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you, Mike. So, all right, so I'm, I guess, ignorant of what happened after our last meeting on March 16th. I gather just from the discussion here that the township board didn't like the motion that we made for recommendation to engage Wade Trim for the purposes outlined. That's correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct.
So when did the township board, I guess?
The following week, wasn't it?
Yeah, I sent an
last
I don't
week?
know, I sent an email out like
Shortly
the-
after the last one.
a couple days after the last meeting.
Yeah, and quite honestly, like I said, I was a little tardy. As soon as I got that email afterwards, I was like pondering what I was gonna do as a planning commissioner on, and I pondered it enough that I got it in today. So I'm sorry it's tardy.
Okay, well, I join your tardiness, Mike. So, we do have questions prepared by David and also by Mike. Everyone's been given those tonight, correct?
David, can I have a copy of yours?
So how do we wanna go about this?
So do the questions need to be formatted depending upon how we present the survey? If it's a multiple choice, if it's an essay question, how do we, what mechanism are we gonna use to survey?
I think multiple choice is the best way, because then you can rank it, but if you talk essay, I read it this way, he reads it another way,
And then multiple choice, we're almost leading the responses, right?
but that's true, that's true.
So
Or other, you can, you know,
Always has.
there's other, after every one.
Yeah.
Or none. I mean, they
Or
could-
not applying.
So I guess, you know, I do this in my job frequently. I ask for a recommendation instead of a request for assistance. Do you have a suggestion with regard to how those questions should be phrased?
I think it depends on how we present it. If it's a survey monkey thing, it's just a simple multiple choice. I think there's also space for comments in there if you wanted to add something. That's what the office was leaning towards for ease.
And see, Keith, you have the benefit of what the township board's thinking in this area. So I guess I'm looking for a little guidance from you with regard to what their preference is.
I'll be honest with you, the board doesn't have a preference because the board didn't have any questions. The questions came from the planning commission. When we sat down to review Caitlin's findings, we got about halfway through it and a bunch of questions came up and she didn't want to go any further until the questions were answered or we got more information. So it was the planning commission that pushed for additional information. The board didn't.
Okay. So what do you, Mike, suggestions with regard, I mean, we've got a series of at least almost 20 questions here. I don't wanna get lost in,
The details of the questions?
well, I kinda wanna walk out of here with the question that's presented to us by the board being answered definitively. Like I'd like to kind of conclude, our involvement of, the public, yes.
Mr. Chair, the what is the questions, right? That we want, this is what the survey's gonna do, so the questions are the what. How is, what mechanism we're gonna use it, gonna issue it to the public on it. And then there's a who aspect to this too, who's gonna set that up? So, my first answer to your question is that we were tasked with coming up with questions as a planning commission. I would say that our first task was coming up with the what. We have 20 questions here. If there are other questions from other members of this board that to maybe submit by, within the next week or so, their questions, and have our consultant then review these questions for validity for posting as a public survey to make sure we're gonna gain the information that we are looking for the updates to the master plan. That would be my first suggestion or recommendation. So that's how I would address the what. I don't know how to address the go ahead.
Can I just interpose for a minute? So isn't relying upon the township planner's review kind of going contrary to what the board has asked us to do?
If it adds scope to her original, yes, to her original proposal, yes.
Then if that's not the desire of the township to proceed that way, I hesitate in approving questions that go out there that are just, put out there, the public would respond in such ways that we couldn't gain any information from it.
But Mike, aren't we being asked to make a suggested list of questions that would ultimately be subject to board approval, Dan?
What I heard is the township board's not asking us for anything. We've generated this task ourselves. We're doing it for ourselves.
Right.
We're not being asked anything. We're bringing this torture on ourselves.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin said if this board has questions, put some questions together and we'll figure out a way to do a survey. We still don't know what to do, how to execute the survey, what to do to get these questions in front of more people that are just in this room.
So what you just said is not making sense to me, because you're saying we don't need the questions, or the questions are a byproduct of the commission, yet at the same time, you don't know what to do with the questions. So
If there's questions that need to be answered, the office, the ladies in the office would put it together put the survey together, whatever that survey is gonna be, I don't know what that is. I don't know what that mechanism is.
I'm so confused at this.
I am not the lady of the office.
It would be Laura and Andy.
I'll just,
Please help us.
I'll just add a little bit, I don't know this, it might go the opposite way. So I read the previous master plan, 2021. There was a community visioning workshop, just like we had. The results are in here. I'm gonna base this just on, because I was not at either of the visioning sessions. Going off of these numbers, I think the input we got this year is way larger than what was used in the previous master plan. These are like, the totals were like 20 votes. And that was good enough for this master plan, that visioning workshop. So I think we had more input this time. I went back and compared them. Other than PA 233, which was not in place in 21, all the other the opinions appear to track with what the people want from the community. I mean, I made some notes, but you know, the top vote getters from 2021, which for instance, one of the top vote getters was 8 votes. So, but they seem to track, at least from a theme standpoint of night sky, pollution, rural, community, recreational projects, low taxes, you know, as far as strengths. So they do track other than the PA 233 stuff. So that information was good enough for this previous master plan. They also did community boards in 2021, and the community boards seem fairly similar as well, as far as topics, including your questions, Mike, about a lot of them dealt with our commercial corridors, the Dixie overlay, what the community wanted to see through those things. So, and not knowing how a survey would be done, how it would be done accurately, how you would control for it to make sure we're not, you know, a bunch of activists in Springfield aren't ruling on our stuff. You know, I don't know any of those details, how to control a survey. But I would think if there was something to proceed with, it would be to put the community boards back up here, do like they did back in 2021. People come in, sign in, they get a set of stickers, put your, you know, what's important to you if we desire more input. And I think the boards, we can either use the ones she created or we copy the ones that were done. I think they're almost the same.
They're all right. I have all of them. They're just gonna be taped to the wall.
That's what I'm thinking is, our visioning workshop appeared to be much larger this time than last time. And we proceeded with less last time and created a master plan.
So Dan, you're advocating, if I can use that word, a resort to historical approach, meaning no survey questions. We let the will of the attendees at the public workshop speak for itself as reflected on the boards. Fair?
My comparison is we have more input now, we have more attendees, we have more community involvement. The results seem to track from 21 to 25. So that would tell me it may not be necessary, we may have what we need. And then the things I worry about on the survey is how to control it. What would the township approve? I don't know what a survey monkey costs. I don't know how we would get it out to the people.
So am I mistaken that the questions, the notion of survey questions was not a product of the township board's request for us? This was something, Keith, am I correct?
Correct.
I can put it right on my shoulders as a question of increasing the public input for more than 1%. If that's not what this board wants to do in a professional manner of surveying, then let's not do it. I mean, to Dan's point, okay? I just don't want to put questions on a survey that aren't professionally reviewed and not valid for the public to answer, because it could be all over the board and we get no value on it.
So what do you
So if it's a budgetary thing that we don't get professional opinions or assistance with, then let's not do the survey. I'd rather not put something out if we have enough, this board feels we have enough statistical information from the previous master plan and the workshop that we had to update the master plan for 2025, then that's the decision.
Thank you. I think there is a budgetary concern. We're clearly getting that message from the township board. Keith is here to, kind of confirm that as fact. So that being the case, given what you just said, do we even have an issue here to decide with regard to these survey questions? Anyone? I would say no. I would say no. If there's no funding approval coming from the township board to invoke the assistance of subject matter experts, township planners, consultants, whoever, if we don't have the money to get that expertise, then I guess we fall back to Dan's observation and recommendation, possibly that we just rely upon the data that was obtained at the public event.
And to Dan's point, allow the boards up for 30, or the comment things up for 30 days and see if we get more input, and that's it.
Correct. Yeah, just to follow historically, at least what the township has done with regard to past editions of the master plan updates.
So Kevin said we would have them on the walls through the May 20th event, the shredding event or the community day here at the township.
I like that. That timeframe sounds.
What was that? I
reasonable.
missed it.
Kevin said we would put them on the walls here through the May 20th event, the shredding day or community
Yeah.
day event.
It does greatly simplify things. I do believe it comports with the direction from the township board, at least with regard to the prohibition or the limitation on funding to go in the direction you're describing, Mike, with all due respect. So I guess, do we have any other comments, concerns from other commissioners with regard to just letting the survey question issue die on the vine? Keith, is that, in your view as trustee, is that sufficient for the board's, moving the master plan update forward?
I think so.
Okay. Danielle, do we need any commission, motion approval, or can we just say that?
I mean, did we ever motion that we were gonna come up with said
I
boards?
thought we did.
If we did, then I would have another motion.
This is your public service at its finest, right? We're trying to fix the wrongs here, guys. Hang with us. So there were two motions. The first one to recommend, and again, I'm referring to the minutes, to recommend approval to the board to have Wade Trim come up with survey questions. That was the motion proposed by Mike, seconded by Dan. And then the second one was for Wade Trim to make updated community boards and the questions to the survey. That was a motion made by Mike, seconded by Keith.
So you wanna make a motion stating that because the township board said blah, 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 and we don't want to use Wade Trim due to expenses, that the new motion now stands as blah, blah, blah?
Correct. I guess
Great motion.
That is exactly how I'm gonna type it.
I don't.
You all got it.
And I guess I would just say that,
I would just
redact those prior motions or withdraw?
I would just, Mr. Chair, I would just have, quite honestly,
Yeah,
a board member rescind the motion on the survey questions from the last meeting, just simply rescind it.
there we go.
And without, just say that, based on, I wouldn't even go into the budgetary thing, because it's not even worth it, just rescind that motion and take a roll call vote and be done with it, for the survey questions.
You don't want the minutes to reflect why?
We don't have a budget, Dude, I don't know, if you want, I don't think you need to have the minutes to reflect why. I think just rescind the motion. I mean,
It's up to you guys.
I,
I think that's a good.
I think we need a why, honestly, personally. And if it's just, would it be a motion to rescind? Or would it just be a commission decision of those earlier motions based upon?
I personally think there's no reason to rescind it. A motion was made, the board said no. Your reaction is to take another motion with that being, with direction from the board and no longer wanting to
Yes.
spend more money. We will now be doing only the boards.
Okay. Thank you, Danielle. Could I ask for a motion from my fellow commissioners in that spirit right there? Keith, might I invite you?
To rescind it?
No, just to speak to the will of the township with regard to the go forward and the boards.
I think going forward, we put the boards up in this room, as people come in, they can view them, they can make their priorities with the sticky notes, and we complete that process of that SWOT analysis, and then we look at the rest of Caitlin's information.
Okay, how about if I do this? As motioned in the last meeting, I will put the two motions out word for word in this motion. And then I can say, because that's the most important thing to me for the minutes. What do we want to say the board said? Due to the response from the township board and budget constraints, we will not be using professional blah, blah, blah.
Based upon township board constraints and concerns about survey accuracy and validity, we would propose to move ahead with community boards only.
Yeah,
Second?
Good.
second. 3 seconds.
So,
Hold on here, I haven't made a motion yet.
I think you just did.
You just did.
Second by Lynn. And I guess because financial interests are implicated, could I ask for a roll call vote?
Sure. Okay, Angela Withlis, excuse, David Newbill,
Yes.
Lynn Shank,
Yes, ma'am.
Dan Crimmins,
No, or yes.
Keith Weirle,
Yes.
Mike Donlin.
no.
You submitted.
Do I get to vote?
Yes, sorry. Oh, Jeff Penzine, sorry.
Yes.
Who are you?
Yes.
Do I get to vote?
All right, thank you. Just so the motion is clear, that requested an affirmative vote of the commission.
No survey.
No survey, thank you.
Boards will be done, hung up by administration staff.
Okay.
Mhm.
I have a question. How do we control that people from Holly, Springfield, Brandon, all over come in? Are you going to, as I walk in, check me off? that
How do you
I'm-
want them to control it? What do you think they should do?
That's what I'm worried about.
Signage, I like at least.
Sign-in sheet with their address?
Yeah.
And then you're allotted
Show ID?
5 stickers or 10 or whatever based on your sign-in, and you prioritize your choices on the boards.
And what if I go in and I pull off all these extra stickers that I don't like?
What if the windows that and they blew off?
God is watching, he will know. And you will be punished.
Endless hypotheticals. and-
Yes, there is, endless hypotheticals.
Forever.
We always have this zoning ordinance that overrules this thing.
Any other comments?
From the board.
I think survey questions, we're through with that. So moving on.
Thank you, David and Mike, for your hard work that we won't use.
Yes, I get it, I understand. and I appreciate the effort also. So we'll move to item 10 on tonight's agenda, public comment.
I have a feeling that Keith is the only one that knows that 7 of us are working on what you're asking for free, and we're spending a lot of time on it. And she's in charge. I
For
assume she
questions
now
for the
owns you,
survey?
Keith.
No.
I didn't know, nobody told me what you guys were
No,
on.
let me clarify, because
The
it's not,
last meeting.
yeah, and Melissa Ford.
Hi, Melissa.
Thank
We
you
know
guys
you.
for all you do, and I know this is a lot. So, let me clarify, understanding, I'm on the resident advisory committee, which was appointed by the board. There's 7 people. And the scope of what we'll be working on is really more data centers. And basically, we're gonna be meeting to recommend, the zoning framework with regard to ordinances and safeguards to the Board and Planning Commission. So probably in September, there'll be a joint meeting scheduled between the board and you guys, the Planning Commission, where we will actually present to you all of our findings on data center, the good, the bad, the ugly, so that it's understandable, and that we're smart and using the time that we've got the moratorium to our advantage to protect our community. So that's the scope. Now, to your point, a lot of the data that we're gonna uncover and present to you can also be overlap or be used as amendments to the master plan. So yes, there will be some overlap, but I wanna be really clear, our scope is data centers at this time.
Is it all renewables or just data centers specifically?
Just data centers at this time, but there'll be overlap with renewables as well. I think what you're gonna find and what we will find in all our research and analysis is that this will overlap for all energy ordinances that you guys will create frameworks for. So we're here, we're not lawyers, we are not specialists, we're not experts. We are just concerned citizens that are gonna do our due diligence and spend a tremendous amount of our time with 7 really great minds, giving you guys data in a consolidated, easy way. Because I will say, as great as Wade Trim is, they have a way of complicating this simple, in my opinion. And you guys have had to like swim through the weeds all the time. We're gonna try to present this in a way that's simple and give you case studies, what has worked and what has absolutely not worked in other communities. So that's our job.
So question, is the township board, you're presenting to them and they're giving it to the planning commission, or you're presenting?
No, Kevin's gonna actually hold a joint meeting.
Okay,
So you guys will all be in the same meeting, the board
Like
and you guys together.
Yep.
in May?
No, in September.
Melissa, date to be determined.
We want it by September. If we can do it earlier, we will. But we literally are going to give you guys about a 15-page report and then give you a less than 20-minute presentation. And then you guys can ask questions. And we are really just we're really gonna be sponges for data to try to get you data in a concise way so you can do your job. And you don't have to do all of this on your own. You guys are overwhelmed right now. You're being hit from every side. And you're trying to do the day-to-day work of this township. So that's what we're here to help. But a lot of that will overlap and help you with the master plan. I do wanna just say with this master plan, I have to kind of laugh because I've been sitting through this the last 60 days, maybe 90 days, right? And hearing us talk in circles. The original issue after our master planning session was the planning commission was concerned that only 1% of our population showed up and that there was a gap in the draft master plan with regard to how Dixie Highway should be developed. Everybody said no data centers. Okay, so what are some alternative ideas that people thought would be acceptable? That was what this was all about. And you guys were thinking 5 questions would fill that gap. And those 5 questions could be done as a survey monkey. They could be done simply as you guys put it in the next newsletter and ask people to email the township their thoughts. You could actually do an email blast to everybody in the township and say, here's 5 questions, answer them. They may not, but you gave them an opportunity. You put the boards up, let them come in, have the boards at the May 20th. It really didn't need to be complicated. I never heard the board say that it was a budget issue, but I'm not in all those meetings.
Well,
But I
there's
will
a lot
say-
of conversations
I'm
that
sure.
are not in this room that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And to be honest, it would be kind of silly to pay Wade Trim more for that simple of a task, right? So I get all that. But that's kind of where it was. Now, if you guys don't wanna do that and don't wanna get the rest of that feedback, to be honest, you guys, we are working for our residents, right? We should be able to handle that task. But if you guys aren't gonna do the 5 questions, that's fine. But that's what it all kind of came down to. That's why we were doing it. I don't have the draft of the master plan. Is that something we can get? Like what that summary is? Because we're at a loss here. We don't know what you guys have been provided by Wade Trim and what is that gap? Do you guys have it? Because how do you know what the gap is and how those 5 questions should be formulated if you don't know what she's already put together?
All we have is that from Wade Trim.
That's unacceptable.
The summary. February
That's
4th.
unacceptable. This happened how many months ago?
There
We are
is
paying
a
them.
summary that we have that she gave to us that was given to the board members that didn't reflect
What's in here?
what this is. It was a smaller scope of stuff that we didn't need to hear about.
So I mean, my personal opinion is you need to have a conversation with Wade Trim, a very serious one. We are paying them. We have paid them good money. I expect a summary. I want that summary and I want it by a certain date. I need it for our data center discussion. I have to have it. I mean, this shouldn't, you guys know, you're all professionals. That's ridiculous that we don't have a summary by now.
They did
How
provide
do
us a
you guys
draft.
how do you come up with 5 questions if you don't know what the gap is?
Did they provide us a draft? No.
We did have a draft, but the whole thing wasn't even done. We didn't even complete the meeting. We're shorted by like an hour. So not everything was on there. So when I gave it to the trustees, the board members, it just
complete.
wasn't there. I mean, if we put it out, I think it would be more confusing like they often are.
So maybe it's good that you guys have said, hey, we're not gonna do the survey, let's go forward. That gives you an opportunity to go to Wade Trim and say, don't wait for anything else from us. We want the summary of what was gathered. And then let our advisory committee maybe help you a little bit with amendments after you get presented with what's going on with data centers. And you get maybe some framework of zoning ordinances, that would be good. Then you guys can, if there's still questions that need to be answered at that point, then you can come up with what you need to survey the residents for. That might be like the wisest way to approach it, because I'm seeing, 30 days go by, 60 days go by, 90 days go by, and nothing's done. And every day that we are not protected as a community with the proper zoning ordinances, we are open to having development here that we do not want and that is not good for the character of this community. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Melissa.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Yes. Anybody else have a comment to offer? No?
I do. The only thing that I would say is now that the board has put up the things on the walls that was in their official minutes, May 20th is when they're having the community in. That needs to continue before Wade Trim does their final. That's the only addition I would have to comment.
I'm sorry, repeat that. I zoned out for a second. What did you say again?
I said that the only thing in addition to Melissa's comment that I would add is that as the board tonight put forward the motion that you typed up for those items being hung on the board for the community, especially for May 20th, I believe that does need to happen if you're not gonna do survey questions. My comment was gonna be that in all of these recordings and in all of these notes and all the different things, and even when I wasn't here and Greg took care of the recording, you guys have made other plans, but then you come back and you switch your plans. And I would really like to see you guys just make and stick to something because our time is not limited. The moratorium on data centers is nothing more than a Band-Aid. It wasn't just this township that did it. There's a lot of talk in Lansing and other areas that are saying that they need to really take a step back. So we are concerned mostly, and I know that, and I would ask Keith to speak to the resident committee that was established, because being on both boards, you have that opportunity to convey that in a public way of communicating it. And so I'm asking you to do that tonight, if you're willing. But what we want to do is we can see how much time and effort. We've seen this table turn over with new people serving. And like I said in prior meetings, I put myself in a position when I'm talking to you as if I was sitting behind a desk. And the reason for that is because you're representing all of these guys, and that's a big strain and a big responsibility. It goes way beyond what we've ever had. And with all due respect, and like I said before, my dad was in the military, he was a Marine. 1% is peanuts. And I have helped to get the word out and will continue. And it isn't just, it is to as many Groveland Township residents as possible. But every time for a year, every time anybody finds out new, they still have not heard about a BES at all. They don't understand what it is. Every time I meet somebody new. And so we're trying, you're trying now, the township's trying to get the word out more. And you have those avenues. I know that our clerk and our treasurer have created new ways to communicate with the community where people can sign up just not on document on demand, but if you want certain things, and with the letter in the mail when it went out with the tax due, and all these other things. I see some diligence that's being done. We're saying, you guys, your time clock is ticking. So our goal, there's 7 of us. You don't see 7 of us here tonight, you see 3. There are 4 other people on this resident committee. So that's all public knowledge. I'll let you guys look it up for yourself. But it was established a month ago. And our goal is to support the Planning Commission and the board to help us for Groveland Township to make sure that if there is anything that comes, because we've seen a BES, we might see a data center, we might see God only knows what. Nuclear, I'm not joking. I honestly would encourage you, Lynn, to look up the dams that have been sold. There's even an MLive on April 20th. 13 dams in Michigan were sold for $13. Our water is being rerouted for a reason. Look at the Hart Center over there in Davisburg. Look at the Holly Mill Pond. Connect the dots yourselves, follow it, and see what you come up with. What we're saying is we need to be protected as residents of Michigan as a whole, not just Groveland Township. And I do respect, I thank you. I don't care that you got it in at the last minute. If you were asked last month to do questions and you got it in today, I say thank you for that. I think maybe I heard from Danielle that you did too. Thank you, because that's what you guys said you'd do last month, even if you decided not to do it this month.
Well, we got direction in the middle of the month from Kevin.
And I'm grateful.
It wasn't in a meeting.
Right, okay, well, and I'm grateful that you would do that and come through with that, and I say thank you. So again, not flogging anything, I'm informing you guys, and I hope, Keith, that you'll comment after. And I've got a whole list of things, but I'm gonna do emails so it's in writing going forward.
Yes, sir, your name?
Greg Smith, for Keith and Danielle. You know, I think that Wade Trim has, their agenda is to help along with the planning, the master plan, and they have their steps that they want to follow. And I've heard what Keith said about, you guys got about halfway through the presentation last month, and it's like, the board's like, man, we just can't go any further because you'd been at it for like 2 or 3 hours, it seemed like.
That's right.
And hadn't really, you're only halfway through it. But I love it, there's a lot of meticulous, and I found what Melissa says, like, you know, it shouldn't be that hard, but I understand on the other hand that it has to be that hard because you want to make sure that the setbacks and the roads and the divided roads and blah, blah, blah. So, good luck. That's a comment.
Anybody else? Okay, moving on then to item 11A, May's agenda. Danielle, do we have anything looking ahead?
What do you guys want?
One thing that, I mean, just one thing I think is important that we can't lose sight of is the Lyle.
Right.
Because it's, I don't know that we're out of the woods yet. And what's to say that this guy that owns the 65 acres lost his golden goose and doesn't start reaching out to other people? So we need to protect ourselves the best we can before the state changes the zoning, if they do, but we need to be ahead of that.
The question is, do you want a WIO? Do you want a CREO? Do you want them to go to the state? What do you guys, as the new planning board, What do you guys want as a board? Including public comments that you've heard or whatever. What knowledge have you gained about any of this besides banishing the other one?
You guys put a lot of work into that other document, there's nothing that says we can't resurrect it, we can change it or modify it, whatever we wanted to do, but I believe we need something.
Keith, I agree, and now that we've got this kind of off in the weeds venture with the, the master plan update, we've spoken to that tonight. We're gonna proceed as we've identified. I think I agree with Keith, we need to focus on wild, real, whatever we want, whatever the will of the commission is, we need to ferret that out sooner rather than later.
I can pull out the last one that was approved. Or I can pull out the draft A, the very original one that nothing was done to it, and you guys can go from there.
Right, okay.
So that'll be in next May's packet. That'll be a big one. So I don't know what else we're gonna be able to do.
Anything else? No? Keith,
May I-
anything else?
may I ask
All right,
one
so if we could,
Just a question for you to look up, overlays, PUDs, and CBAs.
Please, can I make a public comment?
please.
Just a quick one. Keep in mind, the reason Vesper left is we did not have a WIO, and we didn't have a CREO, and they were going to have to go to the state. That delay made a big decision for them to not develop. Remember, a WIO gives them permission to come. I think you might wanna focus on the zoning for all energy, not just data centers, not just BESS, for everything. And that's what this resident advisory committee is going to be providing a framework and giving you the best practices that you can consider to put into your zoning framework. I wouldn't get too caught up with creating a WIO per se, because what you're doing is giving developers a flag of permission. So the most important thing is you are prepared with zoning for all energy, data centers, BESS, anything. That's where I think your time is gonna be best spent. That's
Thank
big.
you.
It's not really, the WIOs, is, if we embed it in the ordinances, which is what Angela proposed.
Same.
Then we gotta go through all of our ordinances and update all of them, and then they've all gotta be voted on by the board. I've been here 15 months, and I haven't seen any ordinance come across to the board to be voted on. I don't know how long that'll take to do that. And then to embed it, we gotta go through every ordinance, because there's a lot of things are in multiple places. So we have to review every ordinance to make sure that they were all in agreement with each other, so we didn't have a conflict anywhere that
But
could
isn't
be
that
brought
why-
up in court later.
But isn't that why you've got the new attorney? I think it's
It is.
time all those ordinances need
It
to
is,
be looked at.
you're right, any ordinance would have to be.
I think it's time. It's been a long time, and this is a whole new era.
So
This
this
is
is
a
why,
new era.
thank you, Melissa, this is why we'll be on the May agenda, okay? Anything else for tonight?
And I would just like to comment, that's why we gotta put this master plan behind us. We gotta start working on ordinances. So, what do we gotta do to get this off the list?
I mean, there's no rush on that. If you guys wanna do, the thing is, when you write the master plan is written. All you're supposed to be doing is within this master plan is decide if you want it the way it is or if you want something changed. Do you want something changed in the master plan? Do you want different zoning? Then that, after you decide that, what you want, then you write your ordinances based off the master plan.
Yes. Typically.
He's the expert.
Oh, yeah.
He's the expert.
I just play Pioneer on TV.
So Danielle, with that, what you decided, that'll be incorporated in the discussion, regarding the ordinance and the interplay, the dovetailing with the master plan.
Yeah, we probably should start with, what do we not like in the master plan?
The existing master plan.
The existing
So,
master
or
plan.
maybe and that's probably a good way to look at it, there's things in there that I'm sure that we agree on. So, but then to identify the things that we need to work on to limit that scope of work.
So my reading of the old master plan is, we done the workshops, we got more input this time. They seem to track as far as what the community wanted from back in 2021 till now, with the exception of PA 233 energy stuff.
Okay, so you had this existing master plan that did not include data centers, that didn't include battery
But I don't
energy,
think-
but now
I
they
don't-
do, now they should.
It doesn't get into that, it doesn't get into that weeds like that. This is just our mission statement.
I'm sorry, I have to say, you guys need the draft of this, like now, before the next agenda. This
The
has
draft
to be
doesn't reflect
documented.
anything of what you guys or what the PC wants. That's what I was trying to
The
say.
draft is the results of the workshop, it's not the master plan.
But is that not creating the master plan? It was a master plan workshop.
No.
It was gathering public interest, gathering information for what was important. And when we look at the
Was
master
it not to
plan,
create a new master plan?
it's not a new master plan, it's updating the existing master plan.
Okay,
Yes.
but you need the draft before you guys can talk at the next meeting. How can you, why would you talk about the old master plan without this updated information? You need this updated information before your next meeting.
Well, we had a summary, that's what I'm going off of, is I have this summary of what the strengths, weaknesses, the SWOT.
But that's not what we're talking about in May, we're talking about a why specifically for battery storage. There'll be no more discussion on master plan until after the May 20th.
I think you need this is just me, again, I'm not privy to all the information you have. You can use the old master plans completed, get the draft of the updates, that should be in more than just a summary format, that should be documentation of she should be able to consolidate all that information into a report for you. You use that plus the original master plan, and then as far as the ordinances and all that, you can talk about that, but remember, this advisory committee is gonna bring to you a framework for a draft of ordinances that you can then amend the master plan. But I see you guys as, like, get the draft of the master plan updates, get that down and underneath yourself and know where the gaps are in the ordinances that you're gonna have to update. Then you'll hear a presentation in September. Then you're probably gonna have to meet a couple more times and figure out what new ordinances and work with the attorney and then update everything. And hopefully by February 2027, those ordinances are on the books. But we're on a real that's a tight time crunch.
Yeah, considering that we only do any of this actual work in this meeting once a month.
Yeah, that might not be enough
That's
for
the
this
problem.
time and place, like, and that's the thing, this is an unusual time and place where, this is not gonna happen again, maybe for 50 years, 100 years, we're on the verge of a revolution, if you will, things are going fast. This is an unusual time, but things will impact this community for the next 30 to 50 years, in this next year too. So I said, I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Okay, thank you,
One-
Melissa, we're gonna,
I can do one quick comment if I may. Is the master plan a 75-page booklet, and Danielle, is your amendments and all that, and ordinances, like 300 pages?
Our ordinance, just the zoning ordinance is 200 pages. The other police power ordinances, I have no idea how many pages that would be, a
I pulled a
lot,
number out of my head.
a lot.
Versus the
More than the
50-page
zoning.
master plan, so you're looking at two different documents, basically. That's all I'm saying.
thank you. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
For today.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Night.
Is there a motion on the third?
This is fun.
PCs will go and get some.
You read through some of the general things and hang on, I'd like to tell you that it's different in places, but it's circus music is the same, the characters are different, it's the same.
Yeah.
Who seconded that?